Yeah, good evening, students. Today we will be taking the question answer session for yesterday's topic, that is ITR 4 and section 44 AD. So please, students, put up your questions for section 44 ADA and ITR 4. We'll be noting it down for the first 15 minutes till all the students come online, and then we'll start our session. We'll be waiting for another 15 minutes for all the students to join, and then we'll start a session. Please put up your questions for yesterday's session in the meantime. Students, we are taking up the questions for yesterday's topic only. taking up the questions.
In the question QA sessions. So I will answer few questions. One question is like, while filing return online, if the taxpayer unknowingly entered wrong amount in any section, then how would he able to rectify the mistake after filing? So I said it in the first second day session when I started ITR. You can rectify. There is it is called reverse return. Not a rectification. The rectification is not possible. It is the revision of the income tax return you filed. So you can reverse the return under section 139 under section 139. Where you can file the return again with the correct details. So you have to change the wrong details and make the corrections, and we have to put the correct details and correct amount, and you can file it again as a reversed return, and you have to show the acknowledgement and date of filing of the first original return. That's how we can rectify the mistakes we made in the returns. But it is possible only in between you are filing the return and it get processed by the department. If it is get processed, then if the department find out any mistakes in your side, and they will send any notice to you for that these figures are mismatching, or there is a conflict between these figures, then only you can rectify. That is called rectification. Otherwise, it is a reverse return. if the department find out any mistakes in your return and they point out in the notice, then the department will allow to or will give a chance to either rectify a return or answer with the correct documents to for the answers they asked or they find any mistakes in the return. So it is normally reversed return that is used for correcting any mistakes you made in the return file. Next question it is, as you said that for 44 AE, it will be attracted for who has vehicle up to 10 numbers. In that financial year, what if he has more than 10 vehicles and also sold some vehicles? As a result, it has come again up to 10 vehicles in the financial year. Will it be attracted for presumptive? There is a correct exact word they used, that any date between the previous year or the financial year, if the count increased more than 10 numbers, they can't go for presumptive taxation. For example, on April 1st April, the assessee have 6 vehicles, so 7 or 8 any vehicles less than 10 numbers. In between, they purchased 5 vehicles in the month of, for example, September. So the number 6 to it was increased to 11 numbers. In the next month or the same month, they sold 2 vehicles, so it came back to 9. Even though they can't opt for presumptive taxation, because in between the year, in one day, even if a one day the total number of vehicles number gone beyond 10 numbers, then it will be applicable. They can't choose presumptive taxation. They have to go to ITR 3. They can't file in ITR 4. That is the answer for that one. Next question, how many years assessee has to follow presumptive basis? So if someone choose presumptive taxation in a financial year, they can continue that for any how many years they can follow for more years until the what we say, the benchmark, the turnover or the number of vehicles or whatever it is not breaking. They can follow for more years, or there is no restriction for that. But if any years they can't use presumptive, or they didn't use presumptive return filing, or they choose ITR 3 or any other ITRs, then after that they can't go back to presumptive return filing. They have to follow the other return forms which is they chosen in between this time. So they can follow the presumptive taxation method for any years. But if they came out of this presumptive any years, then they can't go back to presumptive. They have to follow ITR 3 or any other ITR which is applicable for them. Next one, will an employee, next one. One question is, what is ITR 4 applicable for LLP? In the eyes of Income Tax Department, there is no very wide differentiation between firm and LLP. For the department, firm and LLP both are came under the person firm. So for LLP also they can choose presumptive taxation. For companies they can't choose presumptive taxation. So LLP and firm can also opt presumptive taxation. So for income tax, in the eyes of income tax, firm and LLP are same and equal. Another question is, what is the difference between ITR 4 and ITR 3? ITR 3 and 4 is for the assessees who have a business or profession, who is having a business or profession. That is the similarity. The main differences are ITR 3 is only for individuals. ITR 3 is only for individuals. ITR 4 is they can choose by the individuals and also by the firm. And the other difference is for the presumptive taxation, there is a turnover limit. If in the under 44 AD, if the assessee's turnover go on beyond 2 crore, they can't choose ITR 4. They have to go to ITR 3. And in the case of ADA, if the turnover gone beyond 50 lakhs, they can't choose ITR 4. They have to go to ITR 3. And the case of AE, if the number of vehicles gone beyond 10, they have to choose ITR 3 or any other ITRs applicable to them. So the main difference is ITR 3 only for individuals who have business or profession. ITR 4 for individuals, and for firms, HUF, they can choose ITR 4, but only the benchmark is allowed them to choose ITR 4. That is the main difference between 3 and 4. The another question, if a person has more than one house property and he wants to adopt a presumptive income, under which ITR can he do so? He can choose ITR for itself, because in the third tab where is showing the total income, there is an option to show your house properties income. If there is let out property, self-occupied, whatever it is, you can show the your income or loss, whatever it is, you can show there, and you can file the return if you have to choose presumptive, because if you have a business other than this house property, which will come, which is what is be eligible for presumptive taxation, then you can choose ITR for the filing. Next, one other question is it okay to do reverse return or rectify after the date of filing? Yeah, it is possible to reverse the return after the due date. There is no issue. Even if you file the return before or after the due date, you will give a specific time. Normally, it will be after 31st of the assessment year. They will give normally 6 months more. It will change. Normally, they will give 6 months more. To if there is any, if you have to make any rectification, you can make the rectifications and you can reverse the return. So it is possible even after the even after due date. But as per the law, the rectification is only possible if you file the return by the due date. But the department not strictly following that thing till now. So as per the law, if you file your return by the due date, you can rectify that in a specific time, which is given by the department. One question for senior citizen resident as a resident individual. Amount received from sale of property land, which ITR form to be filled. If that senior citizen does not have any other income other than this capital gain, this is a capital gain because it is a sale of property, he can file the return on ITR 2. ITR 2 is for the assessees who is individual, who does not have a business income and having capital gain and salary or anything else, they can choose ITR 2. They can't go for the ITR 1 because they can't choose, they can't file the capital gain in ITR 1. So they can choose ITR 2. Even they can choose for ITR 3, but ITR 2 is the perfect one for them. One question is, what is mean by EVC through bank? If someone have internet banking, so someone's internet banking active, they can do the EVC. EVC means electronic verification for the ITR. If, after filing the ITR, you can e-verify your return either by your Aadhaar number or by internet banking. So you can go sign in your internet banking, and there you can find it will be different for each banks. So there is a option for e-verify your return. There will be an option for e-verify your return. So when you click the link, that link will directly connect to the income tax account of you or the assessee, and you can e-verify your return using this internet banking. That is called EVC through bank or internet bank. That is mainly using internet banking. For that purpose, your PAN number has to be connected with the bank for which we are using the internet banking. Sugnan sir, are you line on? Hello.
Please wait, students. Sir will be online shortly.
Please. So one another question is, sir, if a firm goes for audit of books, is it mandatory for the firm to pick up presumptive taxation or not? If the firm goes for the audit of report, they have to file the return in ITR 3. There is no need to follow ITR presumptive taxation, and they have the option. It is not mandatory that any firm or any small business whose turnover is less than 2 crore has to go choose presumptive taxation. They can file the returns in ITR. For the firm, it is ITR 5. It is not ITR 3. For the firms, it is ITR 3. So they can file the returns in ITR 5, not in ITR 3. So they can either choose ITR 4 or ITR 5. If they can go for audit of reports, they normally they will choose ITR 5. because because of this hurdle of audit of report, normally the assessees choose ITR 4 and they are choose present due taxation. So now the GST sessions will start. I will answer other questions later in today's sessions. So you can put the questions whenever after the GST session also. I will answer the questions and I will explain the 44 ADA, AE, especially AE again once again because you had a lot of doubts in that area today later in the session. So now Sugunan sir will take you to the GST presentation. Sugunan sir, are you there?
Hi Anish, I'm very well here.
Okay, sir. Let's start the GST session now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Janvi madam, can we start?
Yes, sir. We can very well start.
So hello all, very good evening. Now it's time to GST. So welcome you all to our new GST session for the day. Today we will cover GST registration and GST return filing. As all of us know, GST is a very popular word and among all of us. And it's a vast subject, and yes, most of us know many of its provisions also. So as we know, this GST is implemented with effect from 1st July 2017. But the moment towards this GST proposal started much before. So if you see this Union Budget 6-7, where there is articulated the movement towards GST. And from that period, every year we are hearing the news that this GST will be implemented. So initially there was a plan to implement GST from 1st April 2010. And year after year, after this 2010, we are all hearing about this GST news about its implementation. The funny part is that in during this November 2016, when Government of India announced this demonetization, after that everyone is much sure that at any point of time this GST will be implemented, and as expected, within a year this GST is implemented in our country. So we will first proceed with the PowerPoint presentation, and later on we will move to simulation part. So please hold on, we will be sharing the PowerPoint. So it's time for GST now. As I said in the beginning, most of us, maybe all of us, know many of the provisions of this GST. Its complications, its simplicity, maybe much more than that. You see these key features, what make us interesting with GST. We know GST replaced many indirect taxes in our country. Many indirect taxes. So basically excise duty, VAT, service tax, etc. Many of such acts are subsumed by this GST. And it is came in force from 1st July 2017. We all know this. And the unique feature of GST is that it is a levy on supply of goods or services or both. Goods, services or both. See, we know indirect taxation in the earlier regime also, where we know central excise duty, We are all know about central excise duty. What is that central excise? What was the taxable event in that? Manufacture or production of excisable goods. That was the taxable event under excise duty. And in VAT, the taxable event is transfer of property in goods. Transfer of property in goods. In customs, we know it is import into or export out of India. So these were the taxable event under earlier indirect taxation regime with excess duty, VAT, service tax, customs, etc. Now we are towards this GST. So this GST, the term used is supply of goods or supply of services or both. If anyone is doing this one, GST will be attracted. So this is the basic thing we need to remember. It's a supply of goods or services or both. If you commit any of this one, this GST will attract. The next thing everyone knows that it's a multi-stage tax, which is levied on every value addition. It's a multi-stage tax, like a manufacturer. When he is selling to a wholesaler, he needs to charge GST. A wholesaler billing to a retailer, he has to charge GST. A retailer billing to a customer or a consumer, he has to charge a GST. So whatever be the value addition, it's a tax on that value addition. That details we will look after. So GST is a single domestic indirect tax law for the entire country. So that was the main objective of implementing GST. So let it be a single tax. But unfortunately, this VAT, excise duty, everything prevails now also for a certain few products. But in future, we believe on, we assume that it will be gradually, it will be subsumed by GST. So meantime, we will say that it is a single domestic indirect tax law in our country. This is said to be a biggest reform after our independence. So GST is much discussed about all these aspects, and everyone, I am very sure we are all know about this GST, at least some friends also. So let us see what are the advantages. What is the advantages in GST? See, our presentation is basically on this GST basics, as well as this returns, as well as this registration. Why? Because GST is a vast subject. So we are confining our presentation mainly to use this simulation, where you will be directed towards getting a GST and registration number, as well as filing returns. So from that point of view, we have just listed out GST's advantages. It is mainly removed cascading effect of input taxation. All of us know what is cascading effect of input taxation. Why? Because tax on tax, that is the problem. So whenever we are manufacturing a product and we are selling, we are charging VAT on excess duty also. So this is the issue, a cascading effect, tax on tax. That's the biggest problem we are all facing at pre-GST regime. But at GST, this will be removed mainly because there is only one tax. In the earlier period, excess duty is there and VAT need to charge, but VAT is also on the excess duty, sir, like that. Tax on tax, tax on tax, that chain goes on, where whether we are getting any input tax credit at that period also, but still this cascading effect still remains. But GST is purely eliminating all this cascading effect. Why? Because there is only one tax named as GST. And all of us know the country is moving towards this paperless and faceless system in as far as this complaints are concerned. So GST is mainly a technology-driven system, a technology-driven GSTN network. You may be heard about GSTN network, the large data system network provider who are all managing this GST. So all activities such as registration, return filing, application for refund, and even response to notice, all are given through the GST portal in a fingertips. So these are the main advantage. So this is a technology driven system. In earlier period, all are in hard copy and it's too difficult to retrieve the concerned document. And once you file means you need to forget everything. So now it's a system driven, automatic notices will be given. You can give a suitable reply. So system will take care of all those things. So this is a very good movement towards paperless office and ease of doing business in our country. So let us see what are the components of GST. Everyone knows there are three types of GST basically, even though UTGST, Union Territory Goods and Service Tax is also there. But for the sake of this session, we'll confine to CGST, SGST and IGST. And all of us know when we are charging CGST, SGST and when we are charging IGST. So initially, we know this GST. Actually, France was the first country who implemented GST, and we are following the GST system of Canada, which is a double stage GST system like CGST and SGST. So most of our GST structure resembles to the system prevailing in Canada, but this IGST, which is a unique in the world, basically. So wherever you can have a two-stage system, here another stage is also implemented, IGST. So when a sale happens, not a sale, when a supply happens, when a supply, or if you are taking an example, when a sale happens, intra-state, within the state, you need to collect CGST and SGST within the state. For example, one dealer in Maharashtra selling goods or supplying goods. So supply, supply. The term supply is a wider meaning. So sale is also included in the supply. So don't worry about that. Supply, sale, you can term it, but the general term it is supply. So when a dealer sell a goods, when a dealer at Maharashtra sell a goods to another person or a dealer at Maharashtra, movement of the goods starts from Maharashtra and the movement of the goods end at Maharashtra. So it's an intrastate tax or an intrastate movement of goods or a movement of goods within Maharashtra. So you need to charge CGST as well as SGST. You agree? So within the state, if any sales happens, any supplies happen within the state, we need to charge CGST as well as SGST. Both are go side by side. Whenever you are timing CGST, SGST is also come along with that with the same percentage. So they are all very good brothers. So within the state, we need to charge CGST plus SGST. So let us assume a sale outside the state. That can also happen. A person at Maharashtra, a person means he may be a manufacturer, he may be a dealer, whatever may be. A person at Maharashtra sell his goods to a person at Punjab. So two states are involved, Maharashtra as well as Punjab. In that case, IGST is the tax element we need to charge. We should not charge CGST and SGST. We need to charge IGST. So tax is collected for interstate, state to state. One person in one state, another person in the other state. So we are basically discussing about IGST. So these are the three elements of taxation under GST. I am very sure everyone has all ideas about all these taxes. And for union territory, that union territory UTGST applies. Union territory goods and services tax. So just see comparison with old regime, GST comparison with before GST and after GST. What is the comparison we can see in a similar tabulation we have presented like this. So sale within the state. If we are making a sale within the state, new regime, what we will charge? CGST plus SGST. So it will show CGST in one line item, and in the next line item we will show SGST. So two line item will be there. So in the old regime, when before that GST implemented in our country, when there is a sale happening within the state, we need to charge VAT, value added tax. Like Maharashtra value added tax, Karnataka value added tax, Kerala value added tax, like that. VAT plus central excise duty if there is a manufacturer, or service tax if it is not a manufacturer but a supply of services involved. So these are the combination in the old regime. So revenue distribution means as per the GST regime, revenue will be shared between central and the state. That's the new regime revenue distribution. Then what is the other scenario? Sale to another state. When I'm saying sale to another state means a person in one state selling goods to another person in the other state. That's what the basic idea, sale to another state. As we explained, IGST is the tax rate. We need to charge IGST. But before GST, what was the tax applicable at that time? Central sales tax, CST. That is the common name. We are all telling CST plus excise duty or service tax, as the case may be. So if you are doing this IGST after this GST implementation, the central government will be sharing this revenue with the destination based sharing will be made to the respective states. So these are the just a comparison of what was there before GST and what is there with GST. So as I explained, a dealer in Gujarat sold goods to a dealer in Punjab worth rupees 50,000. And the tax rate, let us assume 18%. So a person in Gujarat selling goods to person in Punjab means interstate. So IGST will be charging IGST at 18%, and in absolute value terms it is 9,000. Another scenario, the same dealer, if he sell a consumer in Gujarat worth rupees 50,000, a dealer in Gujarat selling goods into another consumer in Gujarat itself for 50,000, the GST rate is 18%. Rate is same, but it is comprising of CGST 9% and SGST 9%. Tax rate is same, but tax component is divided between CGST and SGST. So the same 9,000 will be the tax rate, as 4,500 as CGST and 4,500 as SGST. This is the basic idea. With this basic idea, we can move to registration procedures. As I told you earlier, the beginning itself. So it's a very vast subject. We can always refer our beautiful study material, or there is a very good text is also available. We can add value by reading all these good materials, but we are mainly confining ourselves to this simulation, which we are meaning to exhibit you or show you or teach you very soon. So what is the GST registration? Just in the e-filing of ITR and PAN, we have already discussed in income tax scenario. Now we are going to a different taxation, GST. So GST registration applies to all individuals and entities supplying goods or services in India. So who are all supplying goods or services in India, they are supposed to take registration, or registration applies to all those people. These are all general rule, but subject to other provisions. So as a general rule, registration is applying to all entities who are all supplying goods or services in India. So when this registration becomes mandatory, so this registration, every person or every entity has to take registration. So it is become mandatory, registration becoming mandatory when the value of supply exceeds a specified limit. Supply value, that output value, sales value. Now if it exceeds a specified limit, you need to compulsorily get registration. So why this I have mentioned over there specified limit? As I told you, GST is very what we say dynamic system, not only in terms of software, network, everything, but in terms of changes also. So frequent changes are coming. So whenever I am giving some figures or some idea, next day it may be an old chapter, definitely, because too many changes are happening. Now 43rd council meeting already happened in May 28th, I think. So too many changes happened in that also. So whenever a council meets, too many changes they are incorporating to make our GST system robust, make it simplified so that everything can be tracked easily and it is not a burden on the taxpayers. So that's why I put like it exceeds a specified limit. So if you are a small, very small supply, making a very small supply, you are not required to get a registration. You can do that. But as the time goes, if you are growing with your business, it means that your value of supply or the turnover, we will say turnover, aggregate turnover or something like this. It is also increasing, and then you need to comply with all these registration formalities. So what is the eligibility criteria for GST registration? So it's very well mentioned over there. As of now, the GST registration criteria for goods it is 40 lakhs, exceeding 40 lakhs, and for services it is 20 lakhs. It means any service provider who provides a service value of more than 20 lakhs aggregate in a year is required to obtain GST registration. So for service providers, consultants, all such service providers, if their value of total services in a year, if it exceeds 20 lakhs, you need to get GST registration. It is mandatory. What will happen if you are not taking registration? Then you will be attracted with the interest, penalty, prosecution, all those issues are there. So whenever an act says that it's mandatory, we need to follow. What is next? If an entity engaged in the exclusive supply of goods, exclusive supply of goods. So services, what is the limit? 20 lakhs. And if it is a goods, if it crosses 40 lakhs, if it crosses above 40 lakhs, you are required to get GST registration. For service, more than 20 lakhs, and for goods, more than 40 lakhs. This is the general rule. And for certain specified states, the limit is just 20 lakhs, like certain northeastern states like Mizoram, Manipur, Assam, Meghalaya, like that state, the overall limit is set as 20 lakhs. So we are talking about the general one. Okay. So value of supply of goods exceeds 40 lakhs, registration is must. If the value of service exceeds 20 lakhs, registration is a must. Then comes the next portion. An entity shall register for GST if they supply goods interstate irrespective of their aggregate turnover. That's a very good point. So thing is that if a person in one state wants to make a sale outside the state, his turnover is just 10 lakhs maybe, or 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs. He is dealing only in goods. So thing is that if you want to make an interstate sale or interstate supply, registration is compulsory. In that cases, what is the aggregate turnover is immaterial. We need to take registration. But for interstate providing of services, if you are providing services, you need to wait up to crossing 20 lakhs. But thing is that you can always take voluntary registration. No one is preventing you from taking a voluntary registration. These are all mandatory provisions. Suppose if a person is making a combined supply of goods and services, we already explained service alone 20 lakhs, goods alone 40 lakhs. Suppose if they are making a combined supply, then the combined supply value, if it crosses 20 lakhs, both goods and services, you need to take registration. So these are all certain basic point only we are discussing. As all of us know, registration is a PAN-based registration. If a person is having a place of business in one state and also in other state, we need to take two different registration in the same PAN. Like that, too many practical issues are also there. But we are focusing on how we are going to proceed with getting registration, how we will be using the GSTN portal for getting a registration number. We focus on that. Okay. So let us discuss about the GST registration procedures. What are the GST registration procedures? We are continuing with that. Any person supplying goods or services through e-commerce platform shall apply for GST registration irrespective of the turnover. E-commerce platform. See, we are ordering goods from Amazon, Flipkart. These are all e-commerce aggregators. So whenever we are ordering from Amazon, basically that order goes to any of this Amazon's dealer. So that dealer dispatches you. In that cases, whenever a dealer or a person supplying goods through a e-commerce platform or e-commerce aggregators, registration is compulsory. Okay. Similarly, any person undertaking supply of goods services seasonally or intermittently through a temporary stall shop, they must apply for GST irrespective of their annual turnover. Casual dealers, that's the technical term GST is using, they need to apply for GST registration. But as I told earlier, it is always open for any entity to obtain GST registration voluntarily. So you can opt for voluntary registration, but if you get a registration voluntarily, there are certain compliances regularly you need to follow. It is not like I got registration, I have no sale. Since I have no sale, I am not filing any return. Wrong. If you are a registered person under GST, you need to file return as per your type of registration or type of tax payment. Even though it's a nil, you need to follow all the procedures. Okay. So this is the basic procedure about GST registration. So there can be different types of registration. Different type of registrations are there, like for normal taxpayers, normal registration. Normal registration will be there. Normal means we are a dealer or manufacturer, whoever it may be, supplying goods, and we are operating. Then we need to, based on our turnover, we thought 20 lakhs gross or 40 lakhs gross, we need to apply for registration, and registration will be received. Composition taxpayers. Composition. To register as a composition taxpayers, the individual should enroll under GST composition scheme. Taxpayers enrolled under the composition scheme can pay a flat GST rate. However, the taxpayer would not be allowed to claim input tax credit. So composition taxpayers, there are different type of taxpayers are there. One is normal taxpayer, another is composition taxpayer. Composition, like see, we are all studied in Indian tax. 44 ADA, that presumptive taxation. What is that presumptive taxation? If your turnover is so and so, just apply the rate and pay the tax. No need to keep proper books of accounts. No need to explain all those integrities, mitilities. You need to follow that whatever is referred in 44 AD, 44 AE like that. Similarly, here also a composite taxpayer, you can also opt for a composition taxpayer, provided there are certain restrictions. I told you now, for a normal taxpayer, you are selling goods, you are supplying goods, you are supplying services, whatever it may be, whatever may be your turnover, you can proceed with the normal procedures that we will explain later. Composition taxpayer, these are all small taxpayers, because if your turnover is not crossing 1.5 crores in a year, it should not cross 1.5 crores in a year. You can opt for a composition taxpayer. So who can opt a composition tax method composition? Only small taxpayers. No? In Indian tax also only small players can opt for 44 AD and AE. For the sake of easiness of such a small traders, small businessmen, these provisions are incorporated. You agree? So what is the composition taxpayer? So there are certain conditions where you can opt for this composition levy. So if you are going for a composition tax pay, you will be having a flat rate. For example, if you are manufacturing goods and if you are a composition taxpayer, you need to pay only 1% GST. I already explained, maximum turnover should not cross 1.5 crores. If you cross 1.5 crores, no composition scheme is available. You will be not automatically, you will be converted into normal tax paying. You need to file CAMP 8, Form 8 in the GST portal. Everything is going in GSTR portal. So you need to file a declaration and you need to change from composition tax payment. So GSTR portal is a very good and dynamic portal. So if you are a restaurant, hotel, so the rate is 5%. So these are the composition tax rate available: 1%, 5%, in certain cases 6%. So these tax rates are available for composition tax payment. So the thing is that a composition taxpayer, if you are opting for a composition tax payment, you cannot claim input tax credit. What is input tax credit? We will discuss later, but I'm quite sure all of us know ITC, input tax credit. It's a very old term. In VAT also, value tax also, it was there. So here also in excise also it was there, like SENVAT, like that. So here we are using the term input tax credit. So the thing is that if a hotel, let us assume a hotel opting for a composition tax payment, he will be issuing, can he issue a invoice, tax invoice? Answer is no. Answer is no. Tax invoice can be issued by a normal taxpayer or maybe a casual taxpayer, not by a composition taxpayer. So what a composition taxpayer has to do is he has to issue not a normal invoice, delivery supply invoice. Yeah, the term is supply invoice. He has to issue a supply invoice. What make it different? Both the invoices, you need to show this GST number. But a composition taxpayer cannot collect tax from you. Neither they can take a input tax credit. So tax is paying from his own pocket. So this is the basic methodology behind this composition tax payment. So composition tax payment, there are certain conditions are there. Your turnover should not exceed the prescribed limit. 1. You cannot collect tax from your consumer. 2. You cannot obtain or you cannot avail input tax credit. These are the conditions. Next is casual taxable person. So casual taxable person, as we have already discussed, the seasonal one. For their registration normally seems to have validity for 3 months only, and then you to put advance also, so that whatever GST he is planning, that amount is deposited as a deposit, and he will be getting a registration. So these are all different category of registration or taxpayers. So let us see what are the documents required for obtaining GST registration. Which document you need to keep ready? Proof of constitution of business. Proof of constitution of business. If your business is like partnership, company, or whatever it may be, keep the constitution proof, like certificate of incorporation. If it is a proprietorship, his address proof, as well as his business address proof, his PAN card number, PAN card, everything will be okay for him. A passport size photo of the applicant is required. If a big business, there will be authorized signatory photo, as well as authorization letter and its duly acceptance letter. And if you are having a different place of business, like you have a business in one place, you have business in other place, then what is the document showing the address of the other place? You can produce electricity bill, legal ownership document, municipal tax copy, property tax, anyone. And bank account also you need to provide anyone, like first page of the passbook or bank statement and or a cancel check leaf. All these will suffice the requirement for bank account. So these are the documents which we need to keep ready for applying for registration. Fine. So we explained earlier, GST registration process is happening online. So Minister of Finance simplified the GST registration procedure online. Everything now we are all going online. Even class is going online. What about class? But it is not about class. Even exam is going online. Even work is happening in online. So everything is moving towards digital platform. So this GST also government has, or Ministry of Finance, very much planned and developed a very good digital platform which will help us to get GST duly registered without having much problem. The applicant do the GST registration procedures through GST portal. So GST portal, you need to apply for that. After submission of application, the portal generates GST ARN number immediately. This is the advantage. Everything is happening quickly. So application for registration. That's the ARN, application for registration number. It will pop up, or it will give you an application number, a unique number you will be getting. And using this GST number, GST ARN number, we can check the status of your application, and you can post queries wherever necessary. And the rule is that within 7 days of this ARN generation, application for registration, that serial number generation, we will receive GST registration certificates, means GSTIN. So you will get a GST registration number known as GSTIN. So all registered business have to file monthly, quarterly, annual GST returns based on the type of business. And all return everything, even getting notices, even replying to notices, everything is happening in online in the GST portal. So this is the basic configuration in portal. So I have listed out only a very few returns. Why? Because These are all frequently used returns. 1. And if you see the number of returns, it is a n number in our portal. But many of the returns are either abandoned or they are not using now. They are squashed off or they are suspended for the meantime. So which are the major returns we are using? That's what we are discussing now. So one is a return form GSTR 1. What is that? Goods and services tax return 1. It is the details of outward supplies. It is the Janvi madam, is it okay if you let us have some 10 minutes break, madam? Because
Okay,
is
sir.
it
Fine.
thank you.
Yes,
We will resume by 6:30.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Meantime, any queries are there? Please text your query so that we will also keep you posted the replies. Thank you.
Okay. There is a 10 minutes break, students. By 6:25 or 6:30, we'll resume back. So please post your queries. I'm noting it down regarding GST.
Shall we start now?
Yes, sir, we can start.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So we are discussing about we already had a very short discussion about the registration. Now we are moving to returns. So once you register, what next you need to do? You need to file returns as per the due dates as specified by the GST law. This due dates keeps on extending many times because of this pandemic. So these are the general returns and due dates. So I have picked up only just a 2 to 3 returns only because these are the returns frequently used. Others are also used, but very to a typical type of taxpayers. So let us discuss the GSTR 1. That is the particular GSTR return. GSTR return 1. What it contains? GSTR return 1 or GSTR 1? It contains details of outward supplies. Outward supplies means sales in general terms. So what are the supplies you are making? Sales you are making now. You need to give all the particulars of your sales like invoice number, party, their GSTN number, basic price, what is the GST like CGST, SGST, IGST or whatever tax is applicable, amount, everything you need to and the all the details you need to fill up in GSTR 1 every month. I'm talking about normal tax returns. There are also certain typical returns like quarterly we need to file GSTR 4 like that, but still we will discuss later. But these are the main returns we should talk about. So GSTR 1, what is GSTR 1? It is the supplies we made, outward supplies, or in layman style, it is the sales we are making during a month. So all the particulars of sales, you are very familiar. What are the particulars that we need to provide to any agency, like all the details of the value, tax, to whom we are billing, item, invoice date, invoice number, and GSTN number of the buyer. So all such details you need to fill. Agreed, na? So this is the frequency is monthly. So GSTR 1 for a normal taxpayer. For a compound taxpayer, you need not file this type of returns on a monthly basis. That for them it's a different thing. So GSTR 1 is what is the details of your outward supplies. And what is the due date? 11th of next month. It means that now this is June month is already over. June is over. Normal. June is over. So by July 11th, you need to file GSTR1 of June month. What are the sales or what are the supplies you done in June? You need to make it in details and you need to file as GSTR1. Format is provided in the GSTR portal. You can upload it or you can manually fill it. All options are available generally. So GSTR1 details of outward supplies. Monthly we need to file these returns and the due date is 11th of the next month. Okay. Now I told you earlier also too many returns are there which are already squashed or suspended in order to make it very easy. Otherwise it was very what we say such a cumbersome type of returns are also there, but gradually these are all eliminated. Now let us talk about GSTR 3B. So very important return. What is the GSTR 1? Our sales. When a sale is made, it will show you what is your output tax liability. Agreed, na? What is the output tax liability? Let us assume we are making a sale for rupees 1000 rupees. GST rate. Let us assume for the sake of easiness, IGST. Let us say it is 18%. So 180 rupees is the tax rate. Tax amount is 180. So you will be filling. I have made a sale of worth 1000 plus GST of 18%. So the GST I need to pay is 180 rupees. This is the outward supplies. Similarly, you will be buying goods also. No, you will be buying goods. You will be buying services for making your product and you are selling that product. So when you are selling that product, you need to file GSTR 1. Buying the product, initially they planned returns, but meantime these are all suspended. Otherwise it will make our life very miserable. So now all those returns are already suspended. So forget about your purchases. Just focus on your sales. So your GST liability is 180 rupees. As per our last example. Let us assume only one supply we have made. The value is 1000 rupees. Tax rate is GST rate is 18%. So 1000 rupees plus 180 rupees. 1180 is the total value. You just file that GSTR 1. Okay. Then we need to what we need to do? We need to file GSTR 3B. 3B. That's the another return. Very simple return. So what is this GSTR 3B? This GSTR 3B also we need to file monthly. Monthly. And the due date is 20th of the next month. If you take the last example, June month is already over. By 11th of July, by 11th means you can file before that also. Maximum date is 11th of July. You need to file GSTR 1. And by 20th, on or before 20th, you need to file GSTR 3B. So every month you need to repeat this one. So let me ask you one thing. What do you mean by 1 second? Hold on. Yeah, that's one doubt. Please hold on. Yeah, I was just sir, can you please explain the composite taxpayer again? Sure, we will explain. We will have a very detailed explanation when we are going for simulation, so that you can understand what is composite taxpayer. Otherwise also we can explain, no problem. Is that reverse return is only option of rectification? Oh, okay. I think the question is when we made a wrong entry in a return, what we have to do? Can we delete it? No, no, we can't delete it. In a June, if you make any error or a sale is reversed after filing this return, you need to file the amendment in the next month return. So once filed means filed, in the next month you can there is an option giving this all these amendments. We will show you. Anish sir will take you to simulation. At that time, he will show you where you need to put the amendment. So don't worry. GST return is very simple. As everyone is saying, we need to be very careful on this. Please, cash or tax base is applicable to a person who business other state only a small period of time. Yes. Yes. Yes, I will explain you. Then another question is. Small shop like a vendor, they are also register GST. Is it so? What is the registration requirement? I was just looking at the doubts. So please upload this PPT file in Energy Portal. Yeah, definitely. Your all this PPT will be available. Janvi madam will definitely will let you have that available in the Energy Portal. Don't worry. Cancel the check leaf. You may be knowing whenever we are opening an account, we will get a checkbook. In that checkbook, we need to cancel it and sign it and give to for GST registration. That may be required to show that you are having a bank account, valid bank account number. So yeah, the question is whether a small shop need to register in GST. What is the provision? It is not like this. GST small shop need not register. So what is small, what is big, that we need to identify. It is based on the turnover. If he is making a turnover, that small shop having some goods, small type of goods, whatever it may be, if his turnover is crossing 40 lakhs, no longer he is a small shop. He need to follow GST registration. We will repeat all those things, don't worry. So we are talking about 3B. So what is 3B? It is also monthly. Okay, due date is 20th of next month. So we will get 20 days. And in GSTR 1, we will get 11 days after the end of the last month. What is 3B? 3B will be just a summary only. Summary of outward supplies along with input tax credit is declared and payment of tax is affected by the taxpayer. This is the summary. Okay, I will explain you once again. GSTR 1, everybody knows it's our sales. 1000 rupees plus 180 GST, 1180 GSTR 1 over. Now going to GSTR 3B. So what amount you need to pay to GST department? 180 rupees. That's the GST amount now. As per GSTR 1. That GSTR 1 will be automatically populated in GSTR 3B also. These are interlinked. When you file 1, that figure GSTR 3B will capture. In that table, it will be automatically saying as 180 rupees, 1000 rupees you affected, and 180 is your summary only. 180 is your outward liability. Okay, now. So then 180 rupees we need to deposit. But if you have any input tax credit, GSTR 3B also populate that one. It also populate that one. So let us assume our output tax liability is 180 rupees and we have input tax credit of 100 rupees. That 100 also GSTR 3B will be automatically populated. But you can modify. No, you can modify also, no problem. As of now, we can modify. So what is the net tax liability? Output tax liability as per GSTR 1 is 180 rupees. Input tax credit is 100 rupees. Both this figure will be automatically populated in GSTR 3B. So what is the amount you need to pay net? 180 minus 100. So 80 rupees we need to pay cash. Cash means you can make an online payment. So this summary, outward tax liability 180, input tax credit 100, balance is 80 rupees, that is paid through challan number so and so. This information is available in GSTR 3B. You understand, na? So one is your outward supplies. So what happens to inward supply? We are not filing any inward supply. So how this GSTR 3B can populate inward GST like ITC? How it can take, from where it can take? It can take from the GSTN portal, GSTN network. How I will explain to you. So let us assume a vendor, Mr. X. Mr. X made a sale of 1000 rupees. Last month, Mr. X made a sale of 1000 rupees and the GST is 180 rupees. So GSTR 1, he has filed GSTR 1 as my sale was 1000 rupees. Sale means supply. Sale is a part of supply. So sale was 1000 rupees and plus tax 180. So uska GSTR 1 ho gaya. GSTR 1 is over. Fine, na? But this Mr. X has already bought some goods from Mr. Y. Just listen. Mr. X, who is a manufacturer or who is a trader, whatever it may be. Mr. X has a sale of 1000 rupees and GST amount of 180. What is the total value then? 1000 plus 180 is equal to 1180 as per GSTR 1. That we freeze it. From where the Mr. X will get this goods to sale? He has to purchase something, na? He is purchasing the same goods from Mr. Y. He is purchasing from Mr. Y for a lower amount. Let us assume he is purchasing that item from Mr. Y for rupees 500. So he has to pay GST 18%. Let us assume 18%. So 90 rupees he has to pay. 90 rupees he has to pay. So he is purchasing from Mr. Y. How much he is purchasing? 500 rupees. And what tax he has to pay here to Mr. Y? 90 rupees. But GSTR 3B doesn't know na what is your purchase because we have Mr. X purchase because X is not filing anything on his purchase. You agree? So how this GSTR 3B get this basic information? How it is, Mr. Y, he is the culprit or he is the person who is helping us. Mr. Y sold you 500 rupees worth of goods plus GST of 95. So total value is 590. That is his sale. So he will be filing his GSTR 1. Mr. Y will be filing his GSTR 1, saying that I sold goods worth of 500 plus tax of 90 to Mr. X. Mr. X means his GSTN number will be mentioned in his return. You agree? So system can understand that Mr. X has a sale of the same GST number has made a sale in his GSTR 1 of 1000 plus 180. Oh, I see. This same GST number made a purchase and that Y has told that Mr. X has a purchase and he paid 90. So let us match it. That is 3B. That information, that input tax information comes automatically in a report. That information comes automatically in a different report called 2A. Report is 2A and also 2B. These are all automatically populated information or returns. We don't need to do anything with 2A or 2B. So what is 2A or what is 2B? What do you mean by 2A return? I have not mentioned anything about 2A. I have not mentioned anything about 2B here. Why? Because it is an automatic process. So when Mr. Y files his ITR, his GSTR 1, that details pertaining to our Mr. X 500 rupees 90 tax, that will be reflected in 2A. In every month, automatically that portal will be having a tab called 2A. That 2A will say that, see, Mr. X, you have bought 500 rupees plus 90 worth of goods from Mr. Y. That is 2A. Happy, na? That 2A details will be automatically picked up by this GSTR 3B. We need not do anything on this. Automatically pick it up, but we can modify. We will tell you what is modification, why, how. Similarly, 2B also giving the same information. 2B also will say that, see, Mr. X, you have purchased 500 plus 90 worth of goods from Mr. Y. That's also mentioned by 2B. Fine, na? Let us assume 2A is equal to 2B. Let us assume for the meantime 2A, 2B are same. Let us assume like this. For the meantime, later on we will discuss. So this is 2A and 2B automatically. So from where this 2A and 2B information is gathered automatically? From the GSTR 1 of all the other suppliers who are making supply to Mr. X. You agree, na? So this is how 3B works, because everything is tracked with that GSTN number. So never ever make an error entry, error punching of your GSTN number. If it is wrongly mentioned, means you will be losing credit or you will be getting excessive credit. But at the end of the period, it will leads to too many legal consequences and penalty, fine, or some issues will be there. So you need to, if you are bought 500 plus 90 and your supplier is not filing the return, you make a call to him. Arey yaar, why you are not file the return? I need to take the credit now. I have your invoice and everything is with them, but my GST 3B is not showing this input tax credit. It is why? Because you are not filing your GSTR 1. Why you are not filing GSTR 1? File it. I made you the payment now. Why you are making a delay? This is how the GST system cross match everything and makes that the system work smoothly. Hope this is for the meantime, this is okay. But I explained right now just at 2A and 2B automatically come. That's true. But I told 2A is equal to 2B. I need to supplement too many things on 2A and 2B. Don't worry. Your simulation schedule, Anish sir will be explaining you very detailed what is 2A, what is 2B, what is dynamically changing, what is one is very static, like that. So he will beautifully explain you all those points. But meantime, I just want to tell you a few things. GSTR 1 is your sales. We should not use the word sales. We need to use the word supplies. Supplies means a number of items are included in supply. Sale is just a part of the supply. So for the ease of understanding, I am using that term. So GSTR 1, our sales. GSTR 3B, input, output, net amount, payment. That is GSTR 3B. Everything is automatically populated. Now you got how it is interconnected. Then GSTR 9. GSTR 9 is not a monthly return. It is an annual return. Just like we are preparing annual return, we are familiar with annually we are preparing P&L account and balance sheet. Annually we are preparing tax computation and tax audit report, like that. Annually, because all these details are monthly, no? Everything is monthly. We need to compile everything. Then we need to consolidate it as a GSTR 9 annual return. Okay, so it's an annual one. Actually, as per section 35, subsection 5, this accounts needs to be audited by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant. But unfortunately, during the last council, GST council meeting, I think 43rd council meeting, you can refer any news also on this. 43rd council meeting, GST council scratched off this audit requirement so that ASIs are not penalized or pressed hard. So ASI can himself prepare the accounts and self-certify and provide a return. And also 9C, reconcile statement also self-certification. No audit report is audited statement or audited certification is needed for reconciliation. So this is the area where our cost accounts are supposed to have a very big role, but don't worry. Nobody can make this type of computation reconciliation in an easy way. All will be requiring our service. So take it as an opportunity. So this will be a very good area for cost accountants. So I have just explained you 1, 3B, 9 and 9C. Meantime, detailed discussion will follow. Don't worry, these are all just a basic understanding we need to give you. Then penalty, I will tell you one thing. There are penalty, there are interest payments, there are punishment. All are there. So this is not a very detailed, very detailed. You will get a book on GST penalties. That type of provisions are available, but in simple terms, 100 per day for each act. Like CGST 100 rupees per day, SGST 100 rupees per day, so total 200 plus day. But IGST is very rich man. They don't want late penalty for late filing of return. So I am not doing much on this this slide because it is not required as of now. Penalty as of now means for your intermediate studies it will be helpful. But for simulation, we need not waste much time on this. Interest 18%, you cannot 18%. Punishment, oh, punishment is also there. Something is bailable, something is non-bailable. See, so 5 years, up to 1 year, up to 3 years, or everything is there. So be careful on GST element also. Otherwise, the GST holder will be held responsible. So this is the just a outlook of, you will be get a live simulation. Live simulation you will be given, but this is just a screenshot of GSTN. See, see where it is coming. This is 3B. What is that? 3B. See details of your outward supplies. You see this GSTR 1 summary will be there. GSTR 2A, 2B. I told you now these two are auto populated. You need not do anything on this. The figure will be coming, but unfortunately or fortunately, these two figures will differ, may differ. So be we will explain you in detail. Then GSTR auto drafted monthly return 3B. All things will be there. So what is this slide? This slide talks about 2A and 2B comparison. Let us reserve it for last topic discussion. Don't worry. 2A, 2B. These are all very simple returns. Don't worry. We will discuss later. Now 3B also outward supplies, interstate supplies, eligible ITC, exemption, interest and late fee, payment of tax, like that. All tabs will be there in 3B. You can see everything is populated in different tabs. Live simulation will be given. See what is this? ITC set of rules. ITC set of rules. Input tax credit set of rules. That is what is meant by ITC set of rules. See, there is a rule. There is a rule how you can take credit of the input tax credit. There is a rule. For example, if you have a CGST output liability, Central Goods and Services Tax, CGST output liability. Central Goods and Service Tax, you need to pay some amount under the head CGST. You can take input tax credit also. Input tax credit also, CGST will be there, SGST will be there, IGST will be there. So for payment of CGST, you need to first take credit of IGST. Then anything is balance is there in CGST, you can take credit, and still something is balanced, you need to pay in cash. Similarly, if SGST output liability is there, how you will settle the input tax credit? First settle IGST. IGST is the prominent one. First you settle with the IGST. Still payable, you can take credit of SGST. Similarly, if you have IGST output liability, what we need to take credit? First IGST, then CGST, then SGST if available. There is a table below which says that output tax liability is 800 rupees. Output tax liability CGST 800, SGST 400, IGST this person has not been made any interstate sale, interstate supply, so IGST is 0. So output tax liability is CGST 800, SGST 400. Why? Both has to be same now, but leave it. It's a straight example. What is the ITC available? You are having a CGST credit available 500, SGST 200, IGST 800. So how this mechanism works? So you need to pay IGST 800. Okay. You need to pay CGST 800. You need to pay CGST 800. For that, which input tax credit you will take? IGST 800 you will take. So 800 was your CGST liability. You have discharged this liability with your IGST credit 800. Okay. So nothing is payable as CGST. You need to pay SGST of 400. Do you have any IGST pending? Nothing. 0. So then what is the next? SGST you have 200. So from you can credit 200, balance 200, cash you need to pay. IGST only credit, no liability. So this is the mechanism you need to check. I will repeat this mechanism once again. Don't worry. This is a very simple method. So output liability you need to pay 800. You need to pay 800. Agree na? What is this 800? CGST. You need to pay CGST of 800. For paying CGST of 800, what you can take credit? First, you need to take credit IGST. Do you have any IGST available? IGST 800 is available. CGST is the liabilities 800. So just paid through credit, input tax credit. You just pay this 800, and the balance payment is 0. Balance is 0. I will explain again. The head is CGST. What does it mean? We have an output tax liability. We have an output tax. Don't say that we have our output liability is 800 plus 400, so 1200. I agree that 1200 is the total output tax liability, but we need to bifurcate. In that output tax liability, 800 is the CGST, 400 is the SGST, and 0 is the IGST. This is the combination. So you need to pay 800, you need to pay 400, you need to pay 0. For paying this 800, what is this 800? CGST. So here it is made, here this is the equation. For paying CGST, if you have any ITC in IGST, use it. Still balance, if you have, you can use CGST. So IGST first, CGST next. So what we have to do now? CGST we need to pay 800. For that, do you have any IGST credit? Yes, credit is available IGST 800. So this 800 will be paid by input tax credit of IGST 800. So this IGST credit is 0 now. This is 0 now. This 800 and this 800 discharged. Fine, na? SGST you need to pay 400. 400 is the liability. So any SGST, first you need to see whether any credit is available. Which credit you need to use first? You need to use IGST first, but there is no IGST. All IGST we consumed. Then if there is no IGST, what is next? You can use SGST. So SGST, you have 200 in your credit. You need to pay 400 but credit 200. So balance 200 you need to pay cash. IGST, there is no liability but your credit is 800. Keep it. As and when you require, you can use it. So just practice it, which will make you easy. Then just an idea about e-way bill. E-way bill. Earlier period, if a vehicle is moving from Kerala to Tamil Nadu or Tamil Nadu to Mumbai or Mumbai to Delhi, everywhere there is a check post and we need to prepare their hard copy of way bill. But as per GST system, when a vehicle moves, you need to log into the e-way bill portal and you need to just pin or type the vehicle number, invoice number, to whom you are selling, that information you need to fill it and you will get SMS. Who will get SMS? Seller will get, buyer will get, transporter will get. So this will track the consignment and everything in a portal. That is e-way bill. There is a condition like if more than 50,000 rupees, you need to raise e-way bill. But in Delhi, it is if it is more than 1 lakh only, you need to do e-way bill. And for there is a time frame put for this lorry travel, like 100 kilometers 1 day. So the e-way bill, if you are raising an e-way bill for a consignment which is 100 kilometers away, that e-way bill is valid only for a day, because per day 100 kilometers the lorry has to travel. Like that is a beautiful system. E-way. E-invoicing is there. These are all not in simulation, but just for your understanding only, I am putting all those things. E-invoicing. What is e-invoicing? These are all methods to make ourselves tracked, make our data in the common data portal. What we are doing earlier, invoicing. If you are using a software like Tally or SAP, you are taking an invoice, print out invoice, and you are giving this invoice to the your buyer and also a copy to this lorry, so that they will take this one now. But e-invoicing, as per the e-invoicing, this notification, if your turnover is more than 50 crores, you need to do e-invoicing. What is invoicing? Here also you need to make invoice in your system, but that data you need to upload to the e-invoicing portal. Then you will get a invoice from there. Same invoice, but with a what we say, not barcode, like QR code. So it means that, so it is tracked. All your outward is tracked. So if you are making e-invoicing, you need not manually fill GSTR1, because all the invoicing is there in the portal. Just you need to add some debit note if there, you need to add that one in GSTR1. So all these are very beautiful system they have developed. I'm not taking much on this one. Every time GST department or our Ministry of Finance saying that just follow some simple steps for getting registration, simple steps for GSTR1. But the step is like this. In practical scenario, everywhere you need to struggle hard. So this is the practical situation. So GST is already implemented from 2017 July 1. So almost 3 years is over. So if you see the statistics from GST and network, see the beautiful statistics. 1.28 crore registered taxpayers. This statistics is as on 27th June 2021. So statistics keeps on changing. So see 68.09 crore returns filed, 194.95 crore e-way bills issued. See invoice, e-invoicing, 1,275 crore e-invoicing done. There is a what we say, a myth that e-invoicing means invoicing at a GSTN portal. No, invoicing all done in our own system. Then the data will be uploaded there, so that that QR code will be reflected in your invoice, so that it is in the net. That is the concept. See the collection, 34.72 lakh crores collection, and payment transaction 19.06 crores number of times payment is made. Highest returns in a per day 23.86 lakh returns were filed, because these figures keeps on changing day by day, time by time, second by second. And highest payment transaction in a day 9.55 lakh payment transactions were made. So GST, as I told you, it's an online, it's a web-based, web means network-based. So all are there, GST is there, e-waybill is there, e-invoicing is there, and tax information systems exchange with the department. The database is exchanging the information to the system, to the department. That's also inbuilt in the GST, and everything is there. If you see the regulations, GST, we thought of simplifying all the indirect taxes and make GST as a symbol, but unfortunately you will be having 5 GST Act, Integrated Goods and Services Tax Act, Central Goods and Services Tax Act, State Goods and Services Tax Act, Union Territory Goods and Services Tax Act, and Goods and Services Compensation to State Act. So all the 5 Act is there, very detailed Act, and you have 9 GST rules. When Act is there, we know rules has to follow, composition rules, valuation rules, ITC rules. It's a very good, actually it's a very good Act. And if you see other regulations, 43 GST council meeting already over. Each council meeting, a number of changes are coming to make it more robust, to make it more easy. But sometimes making confusion also, or complication also. More than 360 plus central tax notifications, 40 plus IGST notification, cess is introduced. In Kerala, flat cess is introduced. You may be maybe having some idea. Some returns are modified, some are introduced, certain returns are suspended, and there are numerous SGST notifications, and you have 139 plus circulars and numerous advance rulings. See how big this act is, how big this law is. So when we have planned to introduce GST in India, this was our expectation. It will be a cool journey with a single big road without any complication. This was the expectation when we thought about GST, but in practical, now GST is something like this. We don't know where to go, from where we came, and what is the issue, where is the block. Nothing's very confused now, but don't worry. That's why we are here. We are all professionals are here for such an ample and such a big opportunity at GST. So work out on the GST and have specialized in this. It's a very good act. So the latest, I think this is in January 10, 2021 Economic Times. GST authorities arrest 215 persons in fake invoice cases, recover over 700 crores in 2 months. This is the highest record. So when a GST is implemented in 2017, in the WhatsApp group, I seen some invoice in WhatsApp is circulating. In that invoice, it is very funny to note that they have charged GST. Also, they charge over and above, they charge SGST and CGST also. So 3 taxes they charged in the invoice. I have seen in some WhatsApp group. So this is the way people are doing. So lots of evasions are happening, fake invoices are happening. So beware that GST number we should be very careful. Otherwise, it is very triggering any penalties and prosecutions. So as our Prime Minister, when it is introduced, he was telling it is not goods and services tax, it is good and simple tax. So we are all the professionals who can make this goods and service tax as very simple tax, very good tax. Because if you know the excise duty, if you know the service tax and negative list, block list, and if you know the mega notification service tax, if you know the VAT, if you know the CST, our GST is a very cute act, and it is we are the people to make our this tax law as very good and simple. No one else. Our institute is also designed that material for GST is very in a excellent manner. So all the best. Now what you need to do is Anil sir will be taking over this session and a balance session, and he will show you the beautiful simulated portal where you can file your you can file your registration request, you can file your 3B, you can see your 2A, you can see your 2B, you can assess what is the difference between 2 and 2B. All things will be, you will be getting hands-on experience. So thank you very much, Janvi madam. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we'll be having a break of 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes we'll continue. Whatever your doubts you have, please post here. After 5 minutes we'll continue. So as this was a vast topic for GST, so what we will do is we will conclude for today. So tomorrow we will continue with the simulation part of the GST, so that you can better understand it in a better way. So tomorrow we will take on the simulation of the GST part and the remaining doubts of GST also. So that's all for today. Thank you, Sugunan sir, and thank you, Anish sir, for this wonderful session. And we will meet again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Thank you all. Thank you, students, and bye-bye.